Hi, I'm Eddie Burke. I've been the bartender at the Hollywood Improv for 40 years, and this is my podcast, Eddie's Bar at the Improv. All right, guys, this is Eddie Burke, and this is another episode of Eddie's Bar at the Improv. Is that the name of my podcast? Eddie's Bar at the Improv. There we go, and my very special guest today is a good friend of mine, Nick Swardson.
Hello.
Yes.
I'm very fluent in Eddie's Bar. Yeah. I know the bar very well.
Fluent and fluid.
Yeah.
It's like from way, way back. Since you mentioned that to start with, some of the most fun times here, period, were when you would take over the radio.
Oh, yeah.
The music playing. I mean, it just put your stuff on. It was like, just rock the place out.
Yeah, we would have dance parties. I'd be shirtless. I would plug in my iPod, and then I would just play, like after 11:30 midnight, and we would just drink. It was a blast.
Yeah, no, it was like all of a sudden the place would come alive.
Yeah,
with Nick Swardson and his friends and his music, and it'd be like just a whole other club for the last couple of hours, which was always fun.
Yeah, it was a good time.
Yeah. So Nick, when did you feel in your life that you wanted to be a comic?
I didn't really know. I had bad grades in school, and I actually went to rehab when I was 16. It was court ordered. So, shocker.
So
I smoked a blunt in high school, me and my friends, in the middle of during class.
Oh, great. In the classroom.
No, it was, so coincidentally, it was in the theater. So we were up in the balcony. The balcony was roped off, and they had class down on the stage. And me and my buddy smoked a blunt in this just area that was closed off. We didn't think anybody could see us. But you know what? They fucking smelled it. Shocker that a blunt would fucking cause a lot of smoke.
Have an odor.
So yeah, the theater teacher called the principal. They called the police. We got handcuffed out of this school. And then we got court-ordered rehab.
What year is this?
This is 1993, 94.
So they were a little less tolerant at that point.
They were a tad less tolerant. I went to a really inner-city school, so it wasn't like that crazy, but it was still crazy. And so yeah, court-ordered rehab, and then I cleaned up and started my junior year in high school just completely fresh. And I kind of lost all my friends, and I was almost like a new kid at school, even though I knew everybody. My friends kind of left. They kept doing drugs. And then I took theater to get an easy grade. So from theater, that stemmed into improv, an improv group that stemmed into me graduating high school with shit grades, and then starting stand-up.
Well, I mean, I'm interested in this. Did you get suspended from school?
I got suspended a lot, like all the time. I was like a fucking lunatic. I mean, I just didn't. I didn't play by any rules. It's just, I would pull fire alarms to go smoke cigarettes, which cost the city a ton of money. So we'd have to empty the school, and it was like 3,000 kids. I mean, it was crazy. We were selling drugs. We were just bad. Oh,
this is cool. This is stuff I didn't know about you, which is just great. I mean, it's like nice to know that somebody besides myself has had a little troubled past or whatever.
Yeah, I couldn't get away with anything because everything always went back to me. So it was like, my teacher had an apple on his desk, and he went out to talk to another teacher, and I walked up to it, took the apple, threw it as hard as I could against the blackboard where he had like the daily lesson, and I just whipped it like a baseball, and it splattered everywhere. It was just a mess, and I went back and sat down, and the teacher walks back, and he's like, all right, let's start the lesson. And he looks at the blackboard, he's like, what the fuck? And then me and my buddy were like, and it was like clearly us, you know what I mean? Like everybody else, like,
we're just goody
he
goodies.
was just like, go to the office. I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about. And it was just like stuff like that, where it's like, it'd be a dead body.
God, I wish
like,
I was
Nick.
in that class only because it would have been fun watching you have all these little meltdowns.
Yeah.
So when did you really start doing stand-up itself?
I looked down on stand-up. So when I did theater, and then I did improv. And improv to me was like the most pure kind of art form in terms of performance because it was all made up. So I did improv for years in high school, like 16, 17, 18, into 19. And my improv company folded. So I had no outlet to perform. I had nothing. So I just was like, I'll try stand-up. And back then in like the mid-90s, stand-up was kind of dying out. And it was like a lot of like, hey, older guys like my wife, and like, piano ties and shit. So I was like,
Not your style.
not my style. So I went on and I did an open mic, and they give you 3 minutes if you're new. And I wrote out an act, and I wrote in my journal, I had a little journal, and I wrote, I'm performing tonight for the first time. I'm really nervous. And I was a busboy at Planet Hollywood at the time, and I go, I hope someday my name's on the wall at Planet Hollywood. And then I went on stage, and I fucking killed. And the club owner, usually it's like, oh, you know, people do terrible, but at Minnesota, they're really polite in the crowd, so they're like, all right, that was nice. But I was so high energy, and I killed, and the club owner's like, you got to keep doing this. And then I was just hooked. And I think Chris Rock said it, where he's like, it's just like, I'm paraphrasing, forgive me, Chris, but it was something like like a drug, almost like once you do it, you just have to do it. That's when comedians ask you how to do stand-up, they don't want to do stand-up. It's like you find a way to do it. I think that's what Chris said. He's like,
addicting.
it's just you just find a way to do it. You don't. I didn't ask anybody. I was like, oh, this comedy club is an open mic. You know what I mean?
This was all in Minnesota.
This is all in Minnesota.
And how long did you do it there before you decided?
They made me the house MC within months. And then 6 months later, HBO picked me as one of the top new comics in the country.
Wow.
They came through town, and I won a contest in Minnesota that went to Chicago, and I beat everybody in the Midwest. I mean, it's subjective, but I won that. And then they took me to Aspen Comedy Festival with HBO, and I was one of 25 comics. And a lot of these guys have been doing it like 10 years. And they're like, how long have you been doing it? I'm like, about 8 months. They're like, fuck you.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, this is easy. I don't understand why you had to do it 10 years to get here. I mean, 8 months, here I am, look at me.
Yeah, but I didn't really have any agenda or perspective on it. I was fucking 19, so I was just like, I wanted like other people's autographs. And my manager at the time, who called me from New York, and he's like, oh, you know, everybody was freaking out. They're like, who's this 19-year-old kid? So managers were calling my house. And he signed me, and he was like, oh, you want a TV deal? Do you have sitcom ideas? I mean, how much time do you want a special? And I only had like 15 minutes of material, so like I was really green and in over my head, so.
But it worked.
It worked somehow.
Yeah, the fact that you know, all that stuff has led to you being a writer, a producer, an actor, a comedian. You've had development deals. I mean, you've done just about everything at this point. And that's not to say there's not more for you to do. It's just that
no, I'm done. I'm done.
You've accomplished a lot, and you're just a young man, you know. So
43.
That's, well, to me, that's a young man.
I mean, a tree is young compared. Oh,
but it's you know, you've done so much, and you've come such a long way. You got involved with Happy Madison. Yeah. How did you do that? How'd you get involved with Sandler and those guys?
I won a radio contest. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay.
Yeah, insane. No, he was a fan of my stand-up. He saw my first.
Two.
Yeah, he saw my first special, and wrote my name down. I was just like, who is this kid? I mean, my kid, because my first special was 22 or 23, and he went in the office, and they're like, oh, it's this kid, Nick Swardson. He's up and coming, and it's really funny. And I met with him, and he's like, I have a movie called Grandma's Boy. Will you rewrite it, page 1? We want to make it R. It's PG-13. You can write yourself in the movie. And I did, and then I've been working with him for 15 years.
Great. That's excellent, because he's a good guy to be connected with, because he's a nice guy. He's a really good guy.
He's a good dude. He's very genuine. I'm very genuine. So it was just like we just kind of hit it off in terms of like, my sensibility was also his, because I grew up watching Saturday Night Live, and I think personally that those were the best years, where it was him and Spade and Farley and Kevin Nealon and Mike Myers and Phil Hartman. I mean, it's just a powerhouse of a cast.
Right.
You know, a lot of people say the original cast, which was brilliant, but I think pound for pound, that early 90s cast was fucking insane.
Yeah, and every single one of them.
Every single one was so unique and so dynamic. I mean, they all had their own perspectives. They were all original. I mean, you know, it was just nuts.
In, I think it was 2010, you accomplished something that is also unique. You released your first CD, and it became platinum.
Yeah.
Which is not usual for most releases. called Party.
Yeah.
I was like, how's the feeling about that? I mean, like, when you do something like that and it blows up like that, what's your feeling like? To me, it would be...
It was cool because that's when you had like CDs and you had artwork, and it was just so much more fun because you could just physically see your CD. Now everything's download. I mean, everything's changed so much just with social media and everything. But back in the day, it was like the last kind of that whole thing of where you had CDs and you had stuff where you could physically see it in a store, and it was such a cool feeling. You go to a store and be like, oh, the Nick Swardson section, and you would see all your CDs.
Yeah. When did you first hit the Improv?
I hit the Improv, so I moved to LA. I started stand-up in 1996. I moved to New York, which is one of the best pieces of advice I got, because when I blew up and HBO and everything, and I was like, should I go to LA or New York? And everybody said go to New York first, because I just wasn't ready. And they go, when you come to Hollywood, when you come to LA, be 100% prepared. Have an hour at least of material. Have ideas for shows, have ideas for movies, have any kind of script, anything you've written. Just come like full on, because if you come too early, and you've seen this, and you only have 10 or 15 minutes, there's nowhere to go from there. Because LA is not really a development place. You've got to kind of know your shit a little bit. So I went to New York and I cut my teeth and got the shit kicked out of me and went through fucking just this Minnesota kid in Manhattan. And, I was there for a couple years, and it changed everything. It changed what I did on stage. It changed, I owe it my life,
So, how long were you in New York?
I was there for a couple years.
And
local comics were not great to me, but they all kind of, they grew to respect and like me, and they became my friends, but it was hard.
They had
first.
to. How could they not?
It was
I
hard.
mean, you're Nick Swardson. Give me a break.
No, it's like, just like, who the fuck is this guy? Fuck. It's so weird.
At what point in New York did you say to yourself, I'm ready to go to LA and,
I came to LA and did a showcase. I built up more TV credits. I built up more time. I'd kind of explored the alternative scene, which is kind of a cheesy way to talk. Like, the alternative scene was not comedy clubs. It was just more, you would take your time more. You could do weirder stuff, where like the clubs you had to like bang it out. Especially when you're new, like you've got to do well to get booked back at the clubs. The alternative rooms, if they knew you, you could bomb and it would be fine. So you could take more risks. And what was the question?
I forgot. The question basically was, what made you feel
moved to
you
LA.
were ready? Yeah.
I came to LA to do a showcase, and which is a bunch of comics that a manager puts on for the industry, for TV, film, anybody. And I went and did this show here, and this agent from the agency ICM, which is a big agency, and this guy's like, are you out here? We'll sign you right now.
Wow.
And I was like, no, I live in New York. And my manager's like, well, get a fucking plane ticket. So ICM signed me, and I moved here and just jumped right into auditioning and
stuff like that. When was your first time here, and how did you feel when the first was it a special moment the first time on stage at the Improv?
Yeah, it was great. But I remember the first time I walked in here, I had a big manager and I was with ICM, but you still had to work your way in. It didn't matter, you still had to kind of pay your dues, so to speak. So I didn't get on stage for a while after I moved to LA. But my first time here, I walk in, it was pretty packed, and I recognized a lot of comics. And I saw Jeff Ross, and he was in the corner with Bud. And they were at the table. I'm like, oh, that's Jeff Ross. Oh, it's Bud Friedman. I'm like, that's cool. And then Jeff's going on, and Bud's outside the room, and Jeff's about to go on. And I was walking in, and Bud goes, excuse me, do you have a ticket? And I go, no, I'm a new comedian here. Nick Swardson. I'm with my manager and my agent. And he goes, all right, well, you can watch some of it, but... So he let me in, and Bud goes on stage and introduces Jeff Ross, and it was Jeff's 10-year anniversary, and it was a huge deal that they made out of it. And Bud's like, I can't believe it, 10-year anniversary of Jeff Ross. And Jeff went on, it killed, he was great. And so that was like my first moment. It was like getting stopped for a ticket, and then watching Jeff.
I think we've heard that story before from another one or two comics about how their introduction comes into with Bud going, why are you standing in the hallway?
Yeah.
Get out of the hallway. How long before you got on stage here?
I started to do, like, after about 6 months, I became a regular.
Okay.
I mean, I would do some sets here and there, but to be in a regular
rotation or whatever.
And then they started booking me, and yeah, it was great.
Right, and then all I remember is that every time they put the name Nick Swardson on the calendar, it just sold out. It just, it didn't matter whether you're doing 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or the whole night. You just got to the point where you were so well known off of your specials and that stuff that Nick Swardson's on. Okay, and it's cool, and you deserved it because you're great.
Oh, thank you. And no, my fans are great. They're so loyal, and they've been with me since day one. I mean, like, it's awesome. I mean, it's just hard. I mean, I'm working on a new hour right now, which will be my 6th special, which is fucking insane.
For Comedy Central?
I don't know yet. So I'm trying to figure that out, but I'm just trying to get the hour right now on a new tour. But, it's fucking hard to write, like, a new hour. People don't realize, they're like, why don't you release specials? And we live in a world now where comedians release so many specials, like, after a year.
Right.
And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, back in the day, like, it would be, like, 5-6 years, then it would be a big event. And now it's just, like, it's so much that I'm like, you guys fucking chill out.
I would imagine it's hard to, like, keep developing material. There's a comic whose name I won't mention because I don't know if he'd very big and all, who came in once, who was starting back in stand-up, and again, very big, and said to me, Eddie, don't come in and watch me because this is going to be the same stuff you saw 15 years ago. But this audience doesn't know it. So it's like it's a whole new generation. He said, I haven't quite written my new material yet. The fact that you guys have to constantly, especially because of the new media, all of your hours and everything are out there constantly. You have to constantly come up with new things. Is that not right?
Well, yeah, you have to constantly come up with new things and things that are like, interesting. I mean, not interesting, but I mean, you want to keep it fresh. I mean, I still talk about some of the same shit, farting, diarrhea, drinking and stuff like that, because I don't want to, like, abandon, your
roots.
Yeah, my roots, which those are funny roots to have, but everybody has those roots. Everybody farts, diarrhea, people drink, sometimes, whatever. But, I mean, and then you want to also mature. So I talk about, like, how I don't have kids, how I don't, just... You want to find that hybrid, but you want it to be fresh because your material's posted all the time. I mean, I have to call my lawyer and go like, this is posted on YouTube. When people start recording stuff, you can't build up a new act if it's already on fucking YouTube. I mean, I did a thing that is special to my shows, and somebody posted on YouTube. There's stories about Reno 911 and Grandma's Boy. They got like 500,000 fucking views, and I'm just like, fuck.
Who were your inspirations when you were coming
No
up?
one.
Well, that makes sense.
I live a lone wolf soul. Everybody's fucking fuck themselves.
It's little Nicky. He's by himself. Leave him alone. He likes to play in the corner.
Yeah. Put baby in the corner.
Yeah.
So I mean, like I said, I didn't like stand-up, and then I started watching it, and then I became addicted to it. So I gravitated towards 3 guys, Dave Attell, Anthony Clark, and Brian Regan. Were 3 guys that I would see on TV. But then there were, I started seeing everybody. And there were guys like Drake Sather and like Craig Anton and like these guys I would see on late night shows that made me laugh. And, I watched everything. I just absorbed it. And then, I came up in a time where all these other comics, that whole scene from like the late 90s was like, those first Comedy Central Presents was like me, Mitch Hedberg, Pablo, Dane Cook, Stephen Lynch. I mean, there were all these people that blew up off those specials. Pablo Francisco. There were all these people that exploded out of that. Zach Galifianakis.
Yeah, another one. And was Ken Hung too on those things? Dr. Ken?
Dr. Ken was not on those. I met Dr. Ken with Zach Galifianakis, and we were at the bar here, and this guy came up, and he was like, "Hey, I'm huge fans. I love both of you. I'm coming to see the show." And we're like, "Oh, cool." And he goes, "I'm thinking about doing stand-up." And we're like, "Oh, nice. You know, like, do you have a job now?" And he goes, "Yeah, I'm a surgeon. I'm a doctor."
I know.
And we were like, "What?" And he was like, "Yeah, I'm a doctor. I went, you know." And I was like, "Where'd you go to school?" And he goes, "Duke." And we're like, "You went to fucking Duke? You're a doctor? You want to do fucking comedy?" We're like, I mean, all right, you know, if that's what you want to do, but I mean, like, there's no, you know, comedy's just such a dice roll. Like, you don't have insurance, you don't have a 401k, you don't have a pension, you don't have, like, there's no security. So, like, people that jump into comedy, I'm always like, go for it, but there's no guarantees. You could either, you got to put in your work and everything. But long story short, Ken did. He was really funny, and he wrote an act, and Jay Moore brought him on the road. He just started to get chops and write, and then, you know, long story short, Ken's Ken, and he's the nicest, sweetest guy. I mean, I've been friends with Ken now. I mean, this is probably going on 15 years.
Yeah, well, it's funny, but I remember those days when he was just getting spots, and he would come in, and before he'd go on, he'd go like, "I'm going to say goodbye now, Eddie, because as soon as I get off, I got to go back to the hospital," you know?
Yeah, it was insane.
And yeah, he was like a working doctor comedian.
Yeah, it was so bizarre.
Back to wherever.
And then Judd used it perfectly and Knocked Up when he was the doctor. That was great.
And he's funny.
That was perfect.
You've developed a lot of things. One of the big things was Nick Swardson's Pretend Time. Yeah. Which was a lot of fun. And something that I think was a labor of love for you, because it came across that way. Where'd you come up with this idea for that type of a show?
Comedy Central was trying to find a show for me, and my friend Tom Giannis, who was an old Second City writer, director, improviser, but mainly writer, director, and he is one of my close friends, and he created this show. He was basically like, "I want to build a sketch show around you," and I was like, okay. And he had this concept where the sketches would flow into each other via like media, like go into a television screen, then go into a bus, billboard, and all this stuff. And we just created this show, and I was like, told the network, I'm like, I want to make it fucking crazy. And so everything was like nuts, you know what I mean? Like all the sketches, we just wanted to push it, and I couldn't believe some of it made it to air, but. We did 2 seasons. We were going to do a third, and there was some politics involved that ended up killing the show. Even though the show was doing well, there was behind-the-scenes bullshit that factored into just not having a show anymore, which really sucked. But
well, you did. You pushed the envelope, and
people that haven't seen it, watch that show. I mean, I'm not just saying this was my show, but it's one of the craziest sketch shows ever made. I mean, it's fucking insane in the best way.
It's to give you an idea, and I think I've told you this, like I was fortunate enough to do a couple of episodes with you, and one of them that I did with where I played your grandfather, and you were in bed with your sister. My daughter happened to watch it the night it aired, and she texted me, "Dad, I just saw you on Nick Swardson's show. Gross." It was like the craziest. I said, "It's okay. It's just a show." It was.
It was insane.
Yeah, those are the kinds.
Was that the Freddy Krueger one?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
The sketch was basically about Freddy Krueger, and then he comes, because how he would kill people in their dreams, and he comes out of the dream or something, and my dream was so disturbing. So he came into my dream. My dream was so fucked up that Freddy Krueger killed himself. So it's like, it was so warped, but I'm sure you can find it somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
But I was bummed. Comedy Central never released it on DVD because it was in that period, that limbo period where they would stop making DVDs. And I was like, you gotta put this out, because people are like, can you get it on DVD? And they fucking didn't. But you can get it on iTunes. You can get it on iTunes and stuff like that.
Yeah, people will find it.
You can YouTube it.
Yeah, if you haven't watched any of the Pretend Time, you should. If you want to see somebody really push the envelope, this man here and his guests, and even this guest was. It was like, I mean, I remember that scene almost word for word. I'm not going to go through it, but it was. It was gross, but it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
It was always fun. I mean,
Yeah.
I wasn't gross and weird just to be gross and weird.
Right.
There was always, we had great writers.
Mm-hmm.
There's always a method to the madness. It wasn't just like, hey, we're being gross. It was like fun.
Is there, if you had your choice, like let's say between acting and stand-up, do you have a favorite or it just doesn't matter?
I mean, at this point, I'm just like kind of figuring out what I'm going to do. I mean, I'd love a TV show. I'm working on that right now. But I mean, stand-up is the best because there's no executive, there's no producer, there's nobody telling you what to do or what you can say. And that's what I loved about doing stand-up, is that when I was in improv groups and theater companies, somebody would fuck up or somebody wasn't good or somebody just like, I just hated relying on other people. I was always really, I don't even know what the
Well,
word is. I was very hands-on, and kind of a control freak. So when I did stand-up, I'm like, okay, this is all on me. So if I fuck up, or if I whatever the fuck, it's on me. I can't, and I can absorb that, going like, okay, I did this wrong, I did that wrong.
So do you enjoy the immediacy of
and
the
also
reaction?
you don't have to edit anything, you don't have to weigh, you don't have to care about ratings.
And you know if you've been good or bad because the audience either laughs or they don't.
Yes, Eddie loves Christmas, and he always works in any
No,
kind of Christmas.
it just came out like that.
You've been good
You know
or
if you've been good or bad, so be good for goodness. Yeah.
It's a hipster
I don't
Santa
know.
Claus. Hipster
God.
Santa right here with his glasses. And
Oh my goodness! Also you got your HBO, your Comedy Central special pretty quick too. Was that also in like 2010? The first one that you did?
No, the first one was like 2000.
Or
like 2000. I mean, I was 22, 23, so that had to be, it was year 2000.
Okay, and all right, so I got my dates wrong.
You got them way wrong. You got a
Yeah.
decade off.
Hey,
that wasn't even like a month.
Yeah, give me a break. It's like it's.
No,
it happens.
You have
Look.
Christmas brain. I get it.
Yeah, I'm still trying to find out if you were good or bad. So all that turns out. Has Adam played a big part in your career in the sense that you're involved with Happy Madison and you're kind of connected with them and you work with them? It seems to me like there's a relationship that's just wonderful, not just with you, with many of his friends that he keeps with him, that just keep developing things for him and with him.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about me and Adam is that we work together. I mean, he brought me on Grandma's Boy, then he gave me Benchwarmers, which was his idea, and I became a writer, producer, co-star in that. And that was a $35 million budget. And he put me on that movie and was like, okay, I can't be there because I'm going to be off filming. So this is your movie. So, like,
Wow.
You've got to, you're in charge of this fucking thing. So, you know what I mean? I'm like 27 years old. And, like, I've got to watch over this whole movie. And then he put me on his movies, So he showed me how to, he would take me to the editing bay. He would just show me how to make a movie, and it was great. And then, the best part about it was we just became friends. At the end of the day, even if I never worked with him ever again, we just always talk on the phone and laugh, and we just sync up. We have the exact same kind of brain. I know what makes him laugh. I know he knows what makes me laugh. So
He's just a regular guy, actually. I mean, I don't know him very well. I know him, but what I know of him is he's just a regular guy, and what you see on screen is what you get.
He's a regular guy, but he's really funny in the sense that he's a regular guy with like hundreds of millions of dollars. So he does stuff where I'll catch him, where like we went on tour, me and him and Spade and Schneider, and we're in a private jet, and we have cars that pick us up on the tarmac, and it takes us right to our hotel rooms, and I remember we were sitting there, and he goes, hey, man, dude, this is fucking great, man. You're right. Like, I really love touring. Because he was kind of back and forth about touring. And he goes, this is great, man. Like, I love touring. This is so awesome. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, this isn't like how I tour, but, yeah, I mean, it is. This is great. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I got my own
So
plane.
he was just like, I'm like, this isn't how, like, normal comics tour, but, yeah,
when you're
I mean,
doing
this
that,
is great.
how do you feel? Do you feel like, wow, I love this. This is what it's all about. I'd like to just sit back and, have this plane and this car take me and
It's cool, yeah. I mean, it's especially better because all those guys are like my closest friends. I mean, we've become so tight. So it's just like, we all know each other very well. What pisses us off, and so it's just like brothers. And there's fighting, but there's it's mostly laughing.
Do you have a moment in your career where you kind of feel it was pushed you on, like a role that you did, or maybe something like Reno 911, which you recurred in like crazy? Was it Terry Bernardino?
Terry Bernardino.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that and Grandma's Boy are my two biggest. Even though I've done all these other movies, those are like the real big ones where people. Grandma's Boy I knew was gonna bomb, but I knew when it hit DVD it would just explode, and it did. It just was like wildfire, and just when it fucking people just worship that movie. And I remember it was some event with Sandler, and we met like one of the guys who was the head of Blockbuster, and he said Grandma's Boy was the most stolen movie that they've had. Wow. They said people would just get high in this, but they're like, nah, I'm not returning this. And then Reno fans were like psycho. I mean, they were diehard. I mean, we were on for 7 years.
Well, Reno was psycho. It was a crazy little show.
Crazy show, but it was great. And, those were my two big ones. But then, you have Benchwarmers, Blades of Glory, Zohan, Chuck and Larry. I mean, there was a lot of stuff that people liked, but those were the two that I think that really popped me out, along with my stand-up.
Well, you do stand-up? I think the the fact that you mentioned Grandma's Boy is like whenever I hear anybody talk about you, like the customers or whatever, that's one of the first things they mention is Grandma's Boy. Oh, I saw him in Grandma's Boy.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is a lot of people don't know that I do stand. Not a lot, but there's a handful of people that would come to my shows, and afterwards they would come up to me at the bar or wherever, and they'd be like, "Hey, man, show is fucking great." They're like, "You're really good stand-up," and I'm like, "Thanks, I've been doing it a long time." And
but
they were like, "I didn't know you did stand-up. We just know Grandma's Boy, or we know Reno, or whatever." And I'm like, "You didn't even know I did stand-up?" They're like, "No." So
what you see is what you get.
I know, but it's just pretty funny to be like, "Oh, this guy. Oh, let's see this actor try stand-up," and then it's like, "Whoa, this guy's like really good at stand-up." It's like, yeah, I've been doing it for like 24 years.
Okay, so you say
it always made me laugh.
So would you consider yourself an actor doing stand-up or a comedian acting? Which I sort of asked this before, but which is your go-to?
I would consider myself a comedian, undercover cop, doctor, actor.
Okay, the doctor part, that part I get because I've seen you operate here at the bar on different notes. So
I mean, I don't know. People, it's a common question of, what do you like more? Or what do you consider yourself? And I mean, I started acting in theater, and I did improv and then stand-up. So it's hard to say. I mean, I would say at my core, probably a stand-up, but I mean, if you watch my stand-up, there's a lot of acting in it, characters and scenarios and scenes I act out. I mean, it's pretty much a hybrid, I would say.
Okay, so on the reverse side, is there?
Oh,
yeah, is there a?
Which side?
Is there anything that you've done publicly in terms of on stage or whatever that you kind of regret or that you shouldn't have done, or like I wish I didn't do that, or that's some role I shouldn't have done?
No. I have no regrets of anything I've done. Where people
what
are
about
like
this podcast.
Yes, this is a hard regret.
Oh man.
No. People ask that, but I stand by everything I've ever done, and people will bring up specific projects. Like, I mean, if you could take back Bucky Larson, I'm like, why would I take back Bucky Larson? And they're like, well, it bombed. I'm like, I don't give a fuck. Like, that movie's fucking hilarious. That's one of the only movies I've done where I'll watch it, which is really rare. And everything else, I'm like, ugh. I put in Bucky Larson the other day, and I was like, I was genuinely laughing. I mean, it's fucking hilarious. And the critics, whatever, they fucking hate me anyway. But the people that be like, oh, it sucks, I'm like, oh, really? Well, Don Johnson, Steven Dorff, Christina Ricci, Kevin Nealon, Nick Turturro, I mean, these are all like really good actors that read the script and they were like, "Oh, this is fucking great." I mean, it was.
Well, I didn't mean would you take it back? Just
But you fucking said.
I know that you were just so.
There's a child in the room.
Nah.
I see it.
All right, later for that one. It's your career. Everything that you've done is been like a little off color as far as the. Well, I don't want to say everything.
I wouldn't say off color. It's just very
different,
eccentric.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think that's a better way to phrase it.
Okay. And yes, I like that. Do you care about what they think, anybody? Or, I mean, in the sense that, oh man, the guy's just crazy. He's weird. He's this. I mean,
no, because it balances out with my stand-up. So it's like when I do like a weird role, something crazy, they kind of like it because then my stand-up, I'm totally me, totally myself.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So it's like I can depart and then do Blades of Glory. I can do Bucky Larson. I can do Terry. The only thing that like annoys me is when critics, like I get voted worst actor of the year, like every year if I have a movie out. It's usually worst actor. Like the year Bucky Larson came out, I got voted worst screenplay, worst movie, worst actor. Then I got worst supporting actor for Just Go With It with Aniston and Sandler. And I was like, oh my God. And then my favorite part is that I always lose to Sandler. So it kind of works out.
The advantage, the plus side of that is you've got something every year.
Yeah.
It's like you may be voting for me as the worst this, but where's yours?
Well, yeah, exactly. But it's just so stupid and contrived. It's like, you can say that, if you want to say I'm not funny, if you don't think I'm funny, if you don't think my roles are funny, that's fine. Like, I get that. But, I mean, when people go like, oh, Nick Swardson's not funny, it's like, well, no, I'm funny. You just don't think I'm funny. So you can say I don't think Nick Swardson's funny. But how would I be doing this 24 years if I was not funny? It's stupid. And then the critics that go, like, worst actor, it's like, I don't care what you say about me. I'm not a fucking bad actor. Like, you can't say I didn't commit to Bucky Larson. I didn't commit to Terry. I don't commit to my roles. I commit to them 110%. So if you want to say I don't think Nick's a good actor, but I mean, worst actor, it's like get your head out of your fucking cunt.
What was this, like the Raspberries or something like that?
The Razzies.
The Razzies, yeah.
Yeah, which I mean, it made me laugh. I would definitely accept it if I won. So just make a note of that, Razzles, whoever's in charge.
Yeah, I've seen these things over the years, and I've always thought it would be such a great idea for whoever gets voted this to go accept the award.
And a lot of people do.
Yeah.
Because all you can do is embrace it. I mean, critics, they have a job to do, and, what are you going to do? I mean, you make it, the funny thing is I used to be really critical. So, like, I would see a movie, and I'm like, oh, the movie sucked. And I'd be like, yeah, it was so bad. And it's like, you can think a movie's bad, obviously. Everyone's free to their opinion. But like when I got in the business and more in the business, you realize like nobody wants anything to be bad. So when you see like a big action movie that kind of sucks and it just doesn't come out right, it's like, well, there's a lot of people that were trying to make that movie and people butted heads. I'm sure the director wanted a different way, like all this shit. And the final product, nobody wants to make a piece of shit. So
right.
Like when I would see something bad, I would never like tweet it and be like, yeah, I saw this, it sucks.
It sucks, yeah.
I would just be like, okay, because that's what we try to do with our movies and what I do with my stuff. It's like, you fucking throw it out there and you're like, if people like it, it's great. But, you realize that nobody's going into this to like, you know what? I'm going to make a piece of shit. Like, no. People put a lot of effort in it.
Yeah, you do a lot of voice work, too, on animated shows and all.
Yeah, I do voice stuff, yeah.
What do you have out there now that you're doing?
I have a new show coming out called Hoops on Netflix. It's like an R-rated basketball show. Jake Johnson's on it. Ron Funches. 80 Miles. It's a really good cast. It's really funny.
You also voiced a character in Chosen.
Yeah, I was on Chosen. That should still be on the air. That was really funny.
Yeah.
That was me and Bobby Moynihan, Method Man, Danny McBride. Danny produced it. That was really funny. But I mean, most of the stuff I do is just like, I feel like it's ahead of its time, or it's just people aren't. It just takes a minute for people to digest
what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, outside of the Sandler stuff that, always does really great, whenever I, like, venture off and do something, it always is kind of like, people are like, what is this? But Pretend Time was a fucking hit. It's got a 1.8. For people who don't know, that's really good.
The Pretend Time, I mean, I remember when you were doing it, like, it was something that people talked about. It wasn't something that you'd go like, well, Nick Swardson's has a show, Pretend Time. And, oh yeah, no, I know, I watch it and all that. It was very popular. They
never re-air it either. I'm like, why do you guys re-air it?
Oh well, let's go. What was it? Comedy Central.
Yeah.
Comedy Central. Nick Swardson's Pretend Time. Okay, the three of you that are watching this podcast, we want this to get back on the air.
Send letters.
Send letters.
Handwritten.
Let's change
no
it.
emails.
Changing the subject back a little bit. What are some of your? Do you have some memories about this club, the Improv? About even hanging out here, like what were great moments,
Jesus
great times?
Christ, a million. I mean, there were so many. A lot of them involved alcohol, and then there was just.
Oh, did you drink?
God, I did drink back in the day. There was just too many. I mean, storming the stage with certain comics, late nights.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, fights. I remember there was fights.
No, little.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. It just was always fun. I mean, This is like back in the day too. It's a little different now. I don't.
Yeah.
Really vibe with it. I mean, I do, but it's just back in the day. Like so many comics would hang out here.
Right.
And it was just fun. Like everybody would be done with their sets around town, and they would come here, and then we would just drink. And
yeah.
I remember one of my favorite moments. The other bartender, Dave, who was retired.
Yes.
And I remember one time Dave cut me off. I think it was the only time I've ever been cut off, aside from like me cutting myself off. But this was like a hard cutoff. So I was really drunk, and this is before Uber and Lyft. And I had driven here from Venice Beach. I used to live there. So that's like a good 20-minute drive. So I'm here, and I'm shit-faced with my buddies. And Dave goes, I'm cutting you off. And I go, what the fuck? And he goes, no, I'm cutting you off, man. So I go, all right, here's the deal. Here are my car keys. Take them. Let me and my friends do one more shot. You can keep the keys. I'll sleep at somebody else's house. Take a cab. And he goes, all right, one shot for you guys. One shot, that's it. I go, okay. I'm like, what do you guys want? I'm like, can I get 6 Jaegers? And he goes, okay. He pours me 6 shots of Jaeger. And I go, hey, fuckhead. And he goes, what? And I go, never cut me off again. I gave him the finger, and I did all 6 Jaegers.
Oh, my God.
And then my eyes rolled back in my head. I went face first into the bar. And then I had to be carried out.
Well,
And I remember I was being carried out, literally, like, just carried my body like I was a mummy. And our friend Henry Phillips goes, Nick, are you all right to drive? Like, as a joke. Yeah. Somebody told me that. Then I got carried to my friend Mike's house. And I was completely gone. I slept in his mom's bed, and his mom wasn't there. And he threw me in her bed, and I urinated and barfed the bed and ruined the mattress, and I had to buy her a new bed.
Well, that kind of incident reminds me of the time I think I came to work. It was 3 or 4 in the afternoon, and who's wandering by? Nick Swardson. And I see you, and I go out, and I don't know if you remember this. I said, Nick, what are you doing? And you were like, I'm looking for my car.
Oh, yeah.
I go, well, where'd you leave it? He said, well, that's a problem. I don't know where I left it. And as it turned out, and it's not the only time, you left it at your house. You never even took it, or.
Well, there was one time where I did a set at the Improv. I left my car in the parking lot, and I was wasted, and I was going to drive home, and I only live 5 blocks, and these comics were like, no, man, you can't drive. And I'm like, it's only 5 blocks. And they were like, no. So they're like, so-and-so will drive your car, and you get in my car, and he'll follow us. So we go to my place. I forgot my door code, so they left it on the street. And I wake up, go down to my parking space. My car's gone. So I'm like, God damn it. So I walk to the Improv. My car's not here in the parking lot. So I'm like, my car is stolen. So then I go on a drinking bender for 2 weeks. And I call the tow company, they don't have it. So I'm like, oh, whatever. So I just start drinking. And then I'm walking down the street after like a week and a half, and TMZ pulls over. And they go, "What are you doing?" "Swardson, what are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm just bar hopping." I go, my car got stolen. And they're like, "What kind of car is it?" And I go, "A black Jaguar." And they're like, "All right, we'll put it on the show and see if anybody's seen it." I'm like, "Okay." So they put it on the show, like, "Nick Swardson's car stolen." And so they air it, and then I go home, and my neighbor calls me and goes, "Hey, it's so-and-so, your neighbor." And I'm like, "Hey." And they go, "My wife watched TMZ. Do you think your car is stolen?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I got fucking stolen, dude." And he's like, "It's right down the street. It's really like right across the street from our place." And I'm like, "I don't think it is." He goes, "Go look." And it was right there.
Of
I'd
course.
I'd walk past it.
How many times do you think you've lost a car?
Oh, I used to lose my cars all the time. But then they did a follow-up story where Nick found his car. But I always thank TMZ for that.
That goes along with how many phones that you've
Oh, God.
kind of destroyed, or I mean, these people don't have a clue about what we're talking about, but
Oh, I just constantly.
it's
I don't drink anymore, so a lot of people, I just went sober, and I'm going to go sober for a long time, but I quit drinking and smoking, and I was just thinking back, and I still laugh about my drinking days, I always will. But I was losing wallets, phones, everything, left and right, and things that weren't weird, like so many clothes. I lost a suit. Like, I would lose things that were so fucking like, how did I lose that?
Were you wearing it when you
Yeah.
lost it? Wow.
I went to a wedding, and just my whole suit's gone.
Jesus Christ.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
Yeah, most people lose a wallet. Clothes, I mean, it's.
Yeah.
I assume you've lost your underwear and things like that.
Yeah,
It's who knows what else? Your virginity. It's whatever happens.
Now you're being crass.
Yeah, no, that's me.
But yeah, I think back. I mean, I was waking up everywhere. I remember I would always forget the code to my building, and I remember one time I was like, I couldn't remember the code, so I'm like, fuck it, I'll just sleep in the bushes out front. So I curled up in the bushes, and then my neighbor, this German woman, she's like 70. She wakes me up. She's like, "Nick, what are you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm just gonna sleep." And she's like, "No, did you forget the code?" And I'm like, "Yeah." So she lets me in. She helps me into the elevator. It's a 70-year-old woman helping me into the elevator. Then we are on the same floor, and I can't walk, so then I just crawl like a dog to my door. She's like, "Do you need more help?" And I'm like, No. Crawl like a dog, then pass out in front of my door, sleep for like an hour, then wake up, and then I can't work the key. So I'm like knocking on the door, my roommate answers, and I just fall on the floor and just go back to sleep on the floor. And then wait. Then I see her the next day, and I was like, "Hey, sorry about that." And she literally looks at me and she goes, "Yes, I've been there. I've done that." I was like, "Yeah, you have, you sassy German." But yeah,
I just want the people to know that they probably think, the three people that listen, that you're exaggerating, but he's not. When he says he crawled.
I crawled like a dog.
Yeah.
I've never embellished any story.
No, and when he says he slept in a bush, he slept in a bush. He's not making this up.
No,
and it's like, walking back and forth and looking for his car. Didn't you also lose a car that was parked when you lived in Venice or something?
I would lose my car all the time. I'd have to walk like miles and try to find it.
So have you decided to give up driving and just used Uber Lyft? Or
I gave my car up 4 years ago.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I don't drive. I'm big into the environment too, so I wanted to give it up for environmental purposes.
You gave it up, or you lost it and decided not to look for it?
I sold it for $5 to Carrot Top.
Oh, no. Yes. Okay.
No, I gave it up. I just didn't want to drive anymore. LA's already traffic and polluted anyway. So
speaking of Carrot Top, was he a person that you kind of inspired you, or like?
Scott's a really good friend of mine.
Yeah,
I love Scott. I go to his shows. I always tell people, they're like, "What should we do in Vegas?" I'm like, "Go see Carrot Top." He's so funny. And I remember one time, many times, I'll go to a show, bring my friends, we get shit faced, and one time he would always do this. He'd be like, "All right, ladies and gentlemen, special guest in the crowd. He's one of my close friends. And he's going to put a spotlight on me." I'm like, "God damn it." And he'd be like, "I'm from all the movies with Adam Sandler, Reno, and stand blah, blah. Nick Swardson." And the crowd would be like, "Yay." And he would come out to the audience, and he would give me a shot. And Scott drinks Crown Royal, which I don't drink. But I do it for Scott. So he would do a shot, and he goes, "So, Nick, you've got a big summer movie coming out." And I'm like, Yeah. And he goes, what's it called? And I'm like, no idea. I was that wasted. And he goes, what? And I'm like, I can't remember. He goes, you can't remember the name of the movie? And I'm like, no, it was switching titles. And he goes, I would love to be in a summer movie. And you're in a big summer movie and you can't remember the name of it? And I was like, it'll come to me. It's just... And he's like, Nick Swardson. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, a little bit of a surprise, huh?
Yeah. I mean, I didn't plan on being in a spotlight. Hammered.
Wherever you go, you're in the spotlight, whether you know it or not. Well, you do know it. It's
in the past.
Now, in the future, and now too. Nicholas, I want to thank you so much for doing this.
Of course, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
I really appreciate it. I know it's the fact that it's a podcast and it's my podcast especially. It's a little below you, but I do appreciate the fact that you have come down to me for a minute or two.
Yeah, of course.
Sir,
I came to get all my old cars in the parking lot.
Thank you so much.
Cemetery of automobiles.
Guys, please keep your eye out for everything this man does. It's crazy and it's always funny and it's always amazing. So until next time, I want to thank Mr. Mike Carano, my producer, and again, Nick Swardson.
And Carrot Top.
And
if you see Eddie at the bar, give him a big tip. He deserves it. He's been bartending for 300 years.
That's close. That's good. Till next time, guys. We'll see you soon.